Hi guys, and welcome back to David Walliams Spaceboy. So sorry it's been a while. I had a busy weekend and I also work a little later on Monday because I have a little small business as well on top of my normal job. So this is chapter 30, Deepest Doo-Doo, David Walliams Spaceboy. This is all David Walliams' own work. I'm just reading it for entertainment and pleasure. Okay, let's get going. So, chapter 30, Deepest Doo-Doo. Within moments, Ruth, Yuri, and Spaceboy were back on the monorail. After travelling through miles of the cave network, they reached a door with a sign that read Mega Chopper. They were deep below the ground in this top secret base. How on earth could a helicopter take off down here? However, inside this part of the cave was a gleaming, futuristic helicopter standing proudly on a helipad, painted gunmetal grey with blacked-out, bulletproof glass windows. It was so heavily armoured that it looked like a flying tank. However, the mega chopper did have a top-secret base air, emblazoned with huge letters on the side. That seemed to give away that there was top secret base. Ruth looked up above the blades of the mega chopper and at the ceiling of the rock. The engine droned into life as the blades began to spin. Ruth, Spaceboy, and Yuri were bundled into the back of the helicopter. Major, this is bananas, thought Ruth. We're all going to die. The blades spun faster and faster and faster until she could feel the armoured flying machine lift off the ground. Ruth closed her eyes and held on tight to Yuri, expecting the worst. In no time she could feel herself rising higher and higher into the air, so she opened her eyes. To her amazement, the ceiling of rock had slid aside, as the mega chopper was now hovering in the open air. The ground below began to close. Just like the radar dish, the whole thing was man-made, but it blended in perfectly with its natural surroundings. You had to hand it to the people at the top secret base. They may not have made contact with a real alien yet, but they had spent some serious wonder on it. But next, Mega Chopper spun its gun-metal grey nose was pointing towards the sun. It paused in the air for a moment before zooming off into the most perfect straight line. It followed that straight line for the entire journey. The banks of seats in the Mega Chopper faced each other, which felt awkward. On the side sat Ruth, Yuri, and Spaceboy. On the other sat Major Majors in his military uniform and peaked cap. He had such a carpet of medals that his jacket was barely visible underneath. Major Majors had clearly decided he didn't like this uppity little Miss Ruth one bit. No more stealing my thunder, miss, he barked. I don't know what you mean, protested Ruth. I think it best we don't tell the President that it was you who made the first contact with the alien. Why not? Because, well, I would like another medal. And look, I have the perfect space for it just here, he said, pointing to a space of fabric the size of an ant. It would make Mother so proud. I am sorry, but you'll have to ask Yuri, she replied. He met the Spaceboy first. Major Majors huffed and sulked for the rest of the journey. Spaceboy stayed well out of it, keeping his head down all the time. He couldn't let his helmet slide off again, or they would all be in deepest doo-doo. Here's a handy graph of doo-doo. Not finishing a cabbage as the smallest, and then the next biggest, blowing all your candles on your brother's sister's birthday cake. And then I'm just going to read in order, so it's going from smallest to largest, biggest doo-doo. Forgetting to do your homework, burping at the breakfast table, falling asleep in class, peeing in the pool, scoffing all the cookies in the jar, being cheeky to the head teacher, blowing off and blaming it on your grandma, scrawling a rude word on the wall, pretending to be an alien from another galaxy. Soon the landscape was changing as there were colours down there on Earth. The red of the desert rock was replaced by the green of the grass and trees. Little Yuri nodded off to sleep. Ruth and Spaceboy were offered big bags of potato chips. Spaceboy couldn't risk taking off his helmet, so Ruth ate his bag for him, munch. With a gleeful look in her eyes, munch. The pair dozed off for a moment, Spaceboy's head resting on the friend's shoulder, before Ruth's eyes flickered open to see the grey of a big city looming into view. Towers pointed up into the sky like little space rockets. As the unmissable outline of the White House, one of the most famous buildings in the world, rolled into view. Spaceboy dodged Spaceboy's dodgy knee began trembling. Ruth put her hand on his and pressed down hard as she could to reassure him. Instantly, the Major's suspicion was raised. "What's the matter with the alien now?" he barked, over the drone of the mega chopper engine. "Spaceboy's absolutely fine," lied Ruth. "I just need a space pea," added Spaceboy. Ruth had to stop herself from bursting out laughing. She wasn't sure how a space pea was any different from a normal pea, but it sounded funny. "Do you aliens pee in different ways than us humans?" pressed the Major. There was a pause for a moment before Spaceboy replied, "Alien pee goes upwards rather than downwards." "Fascinating," replied the Major, his eyes flickering as the thought. "Maybe there is something military use for pee that goes upwards. Take the enemy by surprise." Chapter 31, The Most Powerful Man on Earth. While this conversation about Space Pea continued, the mega chopper set down on the lawn of the White House. They were moments away from meeting the most powerful man on Earth, the President of the United States of America. Outside the mega chopper's tinted window, Ruth could see lines of the pristine President Guards standing into attention. As the door to the chopper swung open, the guards saluted. There was no doubt that Spaceboy and his two companions were guests of honor. This only made Ruth's heart pound harder in her chest. Now, just like Spaceboy, she was in deep. It was an uneasy feeling being in on the lie. How long could this boy from town next door keep up his alien act? As the three were led across the lawn of the White House by the Major, the blades of the mega chopper finally shuddered to a stop. "Mr. President," called out Major Majors excitedly. Ruth could hear the distant clunk of the ball being struck. Clonk. She looked up to see a small white dot whizzing through the air. Whoosh! She ducked in time as it skimmed past the top of her head. Whiz! Major Majors was not so lucky. The golf ball hit his head. Gonk! Knocking him out cold. Thump! He landed on his medals. Clink, clank, clunk. As Major Majors lay face down on the lawn of the White House, nobody was sure what to do. Fortunately, the familiar figure of the president bounded into view. He was wearing a loud golf outfit with checks so mismatched that if you looked at him for too long, you would get a splitting headache. "Howdy," he called across the lawn, holding onto his hair, which on closer inspection looked suspiciously like a toupee, a ginger one at that, even though he had a deep tan. Like his clothes, they did not match. The president was a short, round man, with stubby arms and legs. It would be a miracle if he could reach to wipe his own bottom with those arms. Behind the president towered a Secret Serviceman in a dark suit and even darker glasses, acting as his caddy, lugging a huge bag of golf clubs. "You didn't see a golf ball anywhere, did you?" asked the president. "I'm something of a champion golfer, but I have seemed to have lost my ball." "It's right here, Mr. President," replied Ruth, picking up the hard white ball off the grass. "Why, thank you," he replied, taking the ball. He looked down at Major Majors lying on the grass. The great military man with all his medals was still out cold. "What happened to the Major?" asked the president. Ruth looked around at the guards. All were shaking their heads as if to tell her, "Don't say a thing." "Well, I'm sorry to say, Mr. President, that your golf ball hit him on the head." "I doubt it, young lady. I am a top-class golfer, #1 in the world." "Well then," mused Ruth, "the Major's head collided with your ball." "That's more like it," agreed the president. He inspected his golf ball. "Fortunately, my ball was not damaged in any way." He buffed it on his chest and popped it in his pocket. Next, the president looked at the three guests standing on the lawn of the White House, the girl, the dog, and the little figure in the silver outfit, cape and helmet. After a pause, he asked them, "So which one of you folks is from another galaxy?" Chapter 32, History in the Making. Ruth's mouth opened so wide in shock that she looked like a fish. Perhaps falling this fall might be easier than she thought. The president might be the most powerful man on Earth, but he seemed to be as thick as an ostrich poop. "It is I," announced Spaceboy in his spookiest South Space voice. "It is I that is the visitor from another galaxy." "Who said that?" demanded the president, more than a little unnerved that as he didn't see anyone's lips move. "He did," said Ruth, pointing at her friend. I, Spaceboy," he added with a little flick of his cape to add some intergalactic drama. "Ah, yes, of course, I totally tell by the voice," replied the president. "Very alieny. Follow me." The three followed the man into the world-famous White House, ducking to avoid the end of his golf club, which was bouncing about on his shoulder and swinging from side to side. Swoosh, swoosh. The interior of the White House was more opulent than anything Ruth had ever seen in her life. It was like a royal palace with deep red carpets, antique furniture, and oil paintings adorning the walls. An elegant lady in a floor-length gown waltzed round a corner. Her hair had been teased and sprayed into the shape of a bishop's hat. It was taller even than Spaceboy's helmet. "Darling, get out of those golf clothes and get your dress properly at once. You're going to be late for the banquet," she barked at the president. "Sorry, dear. This is the First Lady," said the president, by the way of introduction. "The First Lady who ever lived?" asked Spaceboy, much to Ruth's amusement. "Ha ha! No," snapped the First Lady. "I am the First Lady, the wife of the President of the United States of America. Who, may I ask, are you?" "Oh dear, don't mind him. He's from outer space." The First Lady looked Spaceboy up and down. "Well, all I can say is I do hope he goes back there, and soon." She turned to her husband. "Now put on your dinner, and for goodness sake, comb your hair." "I will, Angel," he replied, smoothing down a ginger toupee. "But first I have to do a live television address to the world." "Whatever for?" she asked, wrinkling her nose in contempt. "This is the first time we've made contact with an alien." So this is a huge moment in history. "Well, be quick about it, dear, or our marriage will be history." "Yes, dear." She gave one last withering look at the group before waltzing off. "You're very lucky," began the president. "You caught her in a good mood today." "I would hate to see her in a bad mood," quipped Ruth. "It's not pretty," confided the president. "Oh my, now we should all be set up in an Oval Office for the TV address. Wait until the Russians see this. Ha ha, first man in space. Pah!" The Oval Office was the president's official workspace. It sported a rich blue rug and, and an imposing wooden desk with flags standing proudly behind. There was a large television camera and a stand in the centre of the room, with technical types of busying themselves around it. As he entered, they all bowed their heads and mumbled in unison, "Mr. President." "The Oval Office, this is mega!" exclaimed Ruth. She set Yuri down on the rug. The little dog rubbed himself all over it, letting out a peculiar moan of pleasure. "Yow!" "I must try that," remarked the president in envy. "Now we are going live to the world in 5 minutes. Me talking to a real life alien from outer space. This is going to make me look so—" He searched for his mind for the right word. "Irrelevant," suggested Ruth cheekily. "No," he snapped angrily. "The opposite of irrelevant. Now, what's the word?" Ruth was beginning to wonder how this man ever came to be the leader of the free world. "Relevant," she suggested. "That's it, relevant, important, and, most crucially, re-electable." The girl rolled her eyes and sighed. So this was what it was all about. Grown-ups were all the same, always out for themselves. A butler hurried in with a jacket and tie and dressed the president. As the president checked some notes he had just been handed, he stared at the page for quite a while with a quizzical look on his face, before the butler turned it the right way up. This man really was dense. An extra seat was placed beside the desk, and the spaceboy was gestured to sit. Then a technician began counting down from 10. Ruth and Yuri stood behind a TV monitor so they could see what the camera was capturing and what the people at home were watching. Now everyone in the world was going to meet Spaceboy all at once. "I pray he can fool the world," whispered Ruth to Yuri, "or we are done for." Chapter 33. Don't be a dork. "Greetings, folks of planet Earth," began the president in a slow and serious tone. "This is President of the United States of America speaking to you live from the White House." Ruth and Yuri shook their heads. This man couldn't string a sentence together. "Today is the most historical day in the history of historic days. And let's be frank, folks, there have been a lot of historic days over our long and historic history. This is because today, the human race, of which I remember, in case you were wondering, yes, this is my own hair, has made contact with a creature from another planet, an alien, an intelligent life form, well, a reasonably intelligent life form, and he is sitting right next to me now." Ruth and Yuri watched the monitor as the camera shot widened to reveal Spaceboy sitting next to him. The president turned to him. "Spaceboy, welcome to our planet." He reached out to shake his hand. Spaceboy squeezed too hard, and the president winced. "Ow, this little alien fella's got a firm handshake. I will give him that. And the history in the making. Well, history has just been made, and truly historic. That history was and still is. The first handshake between a human, that's me, and an alien, that's him. Spaceboy did a naughty thing. He didn't let go of the president's hands. Well, I began the president, desperately trying to shake his hand free. Only wedging his foot on the desk and yanking his hand away did he manage it. Yes, he exclaimed, kicking his antique desk, making it topple forward. Wham! It toppled on the carpet, sending everything flying. Woof! It was as if a magician had let a dozen white doves out of a hat at once, as papers flapped in the air. Oops, said the president. You didn't get that on camera, did you? He asked. The cameraman tipped the camera up and down to nod. Shucks. Well, who cares about silly old desks when you have a real-life alien in the White House? Ruth and Yuri could barely disguise their laughter at all this, especially when Spaceboy went to shake the president's hand again. He reached out to grab it, but this time the president whipped his hand out of the way, accidentally striking himself on the face in the struggle. Thwack! This dislodged the toupee that crouched on top of his head. The president smiled thinly before turning around and furtively adjusting his toupee. Sadly for him, he managed to spin it round on his head so it was perched back to front. Strands of hair now hung down over his eyes like a pair of curtains. He pulled them apart so he could see them once again. Ah, there you are, exclaimed the president. Spaceboy, I have a few questions for you that I'm sure people of the world would like to know. First, I have to ask, did you come in peace? No, I came in a flying saucer, Spaceboy replied. His voice was his usual high one, before he corrected himself and made it all boomy again. I said I came in a flying saucer. Yes, I knew that, huffed the president. I mean, did you come to this planet peacefully? No, it was pretty noisy, actually. My flying saucer crash landed on the ground. Make a big boom. The president coughed nervously. But you were not going to blow up planet Earth. Spaceboy paused long enough for the pearls of sweat to pop from the president's forehead. He finally replied, I would love to, but I just don't have the time. Thank goodness for that, replied the president, mopping his forehead with his handkerchief. So, my name is Mr. President. We call you Spaceboy, but what is your alien name? What do they call you on your home planet? Spaceboy replied, not with a word, but with a sound. The sound of a raspberry being blown. It was a long and low, and for a moment it seemed as if it might never end. Your name is? Mr. President awkwardly pursed his lips and blew a raspberry. No, snapped Spaceboy. Right, and what is the name of the planet you are from? Moonbang Jambalabba Montawaka Woo Woo Woo. This made Ruth snort with laughter so hard she had to grip her nose tight in effort not to be heard. Snort, snort, snort. The name of the planet was, of course, impossible to repeat, so the president didn't even try. One of my absolute favourite planets, he lied. Now mankind has often pondered question. It's a big one. We'll be honoured if you'd like to answer it for us. Here goes. Is there life on other planets? Yeah, obviously, or I wouldn't be here, duh, replied Spaceboy, copying Ruth. He slapped his helmet as if it was his forehead. For a moment it looked as if the helmet might slip off, but he grabbed hold of it just in time. Phew, murmured Ruth. Yes, of course, spluttered the president. Put in his place by a small boy once more. Have the alien life forms heard of me, the most powerful man on earth? Nope, none of them. No, not a one. But of course humans are not the smartest species on earth. The president shook his head. I think you will find we humans are the smartest. Uh-huh, replied Spaceboy, shaking his. Well, who on earth is this then? Demanded the president. Us aliens from the Moony High Thunderberg Montwhittle Woo 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 have been observing your planet for centuries before my visit. Our studies have found that the most intelligent beings here are actually hamsters. Hamsters? Sputtered the president. Yep, hamsters are the most intelligent species by far. So far, humans are second. Humans don't even make up the top 10. What? It's hamsters, then monkeys, then goats, then bears, then penguins, then hippopotamuses, then ostriches, then worms, then gerbils, then bugs, then humans. Right, well, thank you for sharing that, snapped the president. Good news for any hamsters watching. Hamsters don't watch TV. Why not? Asked the president. Because you are always on it. There was a sound of chuckling in the Oval Office. Like most jokes, this was serious. Okay, smartass, if they don't watch TV, what do hamsters do all day? Nibble nuts and plan the world domination. World domination, spluttered the president. When are hamsters going to take over the world? I'm very sorry, but that is a secret between me and the hamsters, replied Spaceboy. Oh, for a moment the man didn't have a clue what to say. The butler's gloved hand thrust a piece of paper under his nose. The panicky president read it. Oh, this is a good question. I just thought of and definitely haven't just read. Again, it's one of that we humans have been searching to find the answer since the dawn of time. What is the meaning of life? A hush descended on the Oval Office. It was so quiet you wouldn't be able to hear an ant fart. Don't be a dork. The president turned and addressed the camera. So there you have it, folks. The meaning of life is don't be a dork. Ruth and Yuri shared a mischievous look. The most powerful man on earth had fallen for it big time. And that is where I'm going to stop, guys. The next chapter will be called Hullabaloo, and it's chapter 34 on page 275. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you are all okay. And until the next time, guys, bye.